Hi everyone, this is Nero from TheOverclocker Magazine. So today I'm here to talk to you just about the recent announcement Intel made about the 10th generation core CPUs. So I think this announcement was made on Friday, just this past Friday. And yeah, you've probably read online, you've probably seen all the other videos of all other YouTubers talking about what they think about it, speculated performance and things like that. So I'm basically here to do the same thing for you and just share my thoughts with you, what I think about the CPUs, where I think Intel is headed, and if these will actually be worthwhile in a market that's already, I would say, saturated with CPUs generally offering or promising the same high performance in gaming, in multi-threading and things like that. So the interesting thing about how Intel is positioned this generation of CPUs is that they seem to be targeting mainly just gaming. If you look at all the press material and things like that, they just talk about gaming. They have testimony from game developers that they work with talking about how Intel helps them and all of that. It's a whole lot of stuff, but it's focused and centered on gaming. And this isn't actually surprising to me because if you think about it, where Intel finds itself right now is that they have the fastest gaming performance. So if you're just looking at just gaming performance, nobody's going to beat Intel. And if you look at even overclocking, nobody's beating Intel. In fact, I say nobody as if there's like Cyrex is still around and all of these other people. It's just AMD. So AMD is not able to beat Intel when it comes to overclocking and gaming. So, and I think Intel has actually maximized or taken that where they lead and maximize their advancement or their advantage there rather. So you look at where they've even taken clock speeds. For instance, you look at the thermal velocity boost, the TVB that they've introduced right now, that's 5.3 gigahertz at peak for the 10900K. And I think the other CPUs have this ability as well, but obviously to 5.2 gigahertz, 5.1 or whatever it may be. You'll see it in the press material. So having the ability to just clock even higher obviously speaks to a process that they've tweaked even more. I mean, we've been on the same 14 nanometer process for quite a while, but in that journey, it's actually improved significantly. If you, for instance, consider that we first saw 14 nanometer CPUs as Broadwell, and I remember the 6950X. If you look at how that was overclocking, and even the other CPUs, I think it was the 5500 or something, like there was a line of CPUs, the Broadwell line of CPUs that really wasn't popular. It didn't really go far. If you look at how, I don't want to say poorly, but how limited the overclocking was with those CPUs compared to where this 14 nanometer process finds itself now, there actually has been progress. It's very difficult to note it if you were just looking at, so this was 6th generation, this was 7th generation, and then 8th generation and so forth. You might think that also we're basically looking at the same process that isn't really making any headways, isn't making any improvement, but that would be incorrect because it's made a lot of improvements. Right now we're sitting at the CPU that's able to do 5.3 gigahertz at peak, and this is something that Intel is almost guaranteeing for as long as you have the power headroom and the thermal headroom, which is I think 70 degrees and lower. You'll be able to hit 5.3 gigahertz on a favored core or one of the favored cores, I believe it is. So you can obviously see that there's been doing a lot of tweaking in the background, just trying to get their frequencies up, which is maximizing their strengths, right? If their strengths are in gaming and overclocking, of course frequency is where they're going to maximize all their efforts. The games that are going to be releasing soon or this year or the next few years, they're still going to be relying on just single thread performance. Okay, so obviously that may change with the new generation of consoles that are coming in with 16 thread CPUs. So obviously the lowest common denominator now is much higher. It's now 8 core CPUs with 16 threads. But right now where we are, definitely clock speed is king. I mean, you even see that with a 4 core CPU on the X299. If you get that to 5 gigahertz, 5.1 gigahertz and things like that, it still delivers better performance than you are going to get from even a 6 or 8 core CPU that's running at 4.4 gigahertz. You know, so clock speed really does matter, and you can make up for not having the thread count. You make up for that by just having a better clock speed. And this is exactly what Intel is maximizing. So what we have here is the 10900K can do 5.3 gigahertz with TVB. And of course, as I mentioned, if you're under 70 degrees Celsius and you have the power headroom, which I think almost every motherboard will be able to override, you're basically able to do 5.3 gigahertz. These new generation CPUs as well inherit the Turbo Boost Max 3.0 technology, which highlights for you the two best cores on the silicon and allows you to clock those a little bit higher than the other cores without adding more voltage to it. So that is something that you're seeing come across from the HEDT platform. So they've taken some of the stuff we've seen there and they've actually brought it to the desktop platform. And besides just the Turbo Boost Max 3.0, we also see the increase in DRAM speed, in the official spec DRAM speed, from 2667 to 2933. And obviously that boosts bandwidth. And if you are boosting bandwidth, it means that you want to get a little bit better performance again in your gaming. One of the games that I've noticed benefits tremendously from bandwidth, from memory bandwidth or memory efficiency, is actually Hitman 2, and I believe GTA 5 still scales with memory bandwidth. So the more you have, the better the game performance. And I mean, overall, if you have more memory bandwidth, in fact, you can never have enough memory bandwidth, it's a good thing. So Intel has done pretty good here by increasing the official spec memory. But with that, I do suspect they've also improved the IMC. Now, I'm not really sure about this, as I can't know this, but the reason I say this is because I've seen screenshots on a Z490 board, actually a gigabyte Z490 board that had 5,200 mega transactions per second at C14. That's pretty crazy, right? So I'm not sure if it's the motherboard or if it's the CPU or if it's a combination of the two, but the fact that we're able to get there now means that there has been some progress. And given that we're seeing an increased memory frequency here, I have the suspicion that perhaps the memory controllers have been improved or refined a little bit. Again, if they haven't been, or it's just the motherboard manufacturers getting more comfortable or more familiar with the IMC on this generation of CPUs, on this architecture, then so be it. So yeah, so with the chipset, we have potential PCI Express 4.0 support, but we also have 2.5 gigabit Ethernet. We have, the new integrated Wi-Fi 6 AX201. So that's Bluetooth 5.0 and like really many megabits per second of Wi-Fi connectivity. Overall, I feel pretty confident about what Intel has done now. I feel pretty excited rather than confident. Now, I know that this 10th generation of CPUs is not going to blow the competition away when it comes to productivity. And in fact, it's going to continue down the same line where Intel was already providing the fastest gaming experience. You have CPUs that are clocking up at 5.3 gigahertz or something like that. It's definitely going to pay dividends when it comes to in-game performance. And since that's exactly what Intel seems to be targeting here, I would think that they've basically hit the performance targets. We'll have to see when it comes to actual testing, because I think that the biggest competition for these CPUs isn't actually what AMD is offering, but it's what Intel is currently offering with the 9th generation and perhaps even the 8th generation CPUs. No, mainly 9th generation CPUs. Okay, because we had the 9900K, we had the 9900KS, okay, which is a 5 gigahertz all-core CPU. I mean, that's really going to be tough to beat, you know, particularly for the 10700K. I don't know if it can hold itself up against the 9900KS, but then again, the KS is like $600 plus, whereas the, what do you call the CPU, the 10700K is 400 and something, or probably 300 and something, I don't know. But basically it's at a much cheaper price. And if indeed they have improved the manufacturing process, it means that it may clock just as well as the 9900KS, if not better, you know. And especially since, actually I'd heard or read rather that the 8-core CPUs actually use a 10-core die. And if that's the case, I believe that having a larger die that you're not using actually allows you to almost bleed out some heat into the part of the silicon that you're not using. So that may help thermals in one way or another. I may be flubbing this, but I think that's how it works. So that basically should give the 10700K some leg room, and we'll have to see how how well it stacks up against the 9900KS. It's a given that it's going to be better than the 9900K, but the KS is the special one, right? So if the 10700K can match that and perhaps even give you, I don't want to say necessarily better performance, but give you the same performance at better thermals or better power consumption, then it's a real winner. And given its price point versus the 9900K, I think 9900KS, sorry, I think a lot of people may be inclined to look at that CPU if you cannot necessarily make your pocket stretch to the 10900K. This platform is literally the best overclocking platform Intel has put out to date. And that's just on paper. And I think in practice it would be the same. As I had said, I saw a screenshot of a gigabyte motherboard doing 5,200 mega transactions a second at C14. I mean, if that comes about as a result of the IMC, okay, that means that we are in business until it's produced the best IMC they have in a very long time. So yeah, it's pretty some exciting stuff that's coming down the line. I'll be able to tell you in more depth how I feel about this thing than just give you performance results as and when I get them ready. Okay, the next magazine is actually centered around the 10th generation CPUs, particularly the 10900K. And there's also 2 other magazines that will come out at the same time on the same day, but those are focused on motherboards, one from Gigabyte and one from Asus. I'm pretty excited about what Intel has put together here, not necessarily from a perspective of giving a challenge to what the competition has been offering in terms of power consumption, value for money, thread count, and things like that. That's really some really strong competition there. So in terms of improving gaming performance and catering to the enthusiast market, and when I say enthusiast market, I'm also talking about competitive and casual overclockers as well. I think Intel has put together something quite good here. It may not be the end-all be-all of CPUs and CPU families, and some people may not even be impressed by it, but from where I'm sitting and what I'm seeing, I think this could usher in some really interesting overclocking results. We all know, or at least I'm suspecting right now, that on the day that the NDA drops, which I think is on the 20th, we're going to have some new performance records and even some new 8-core performance records, I think, because these CPUs should be able to, at the very least, match the 9900Ks, right? And if things are as good as what they look like on paper, they should be even better. But anyway, thank you for listening. Let me know what you think about this new generation of Intel CPUs. And don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Take care.